In the quiet town of Callao, just outside the bustling city of Lima, Peru, there was a cemetery no one liked to visit after dark. Locals whispered about it, about strange sounds in the night, about flowers that appeared on graves no one tended, and about a particular tomb in the back corner, half sunken into the earth. But what happened in April of 2022 turned those whispers into screams. Her name was Rosángela Almeida. 36 years old, a teacher, beloved by her students, and known in the neighborhood for always walking her elderly dog with a smile and a cup of coffee in hand. On the morning of April 25th, she was involved in a devastating car crash while on her way to school. The collision was brutal. Her body was mangled. By the time emergency services arrived, she had no pulse, or so they thought. The hospital confirmed her death within the hour. Paperwork was signed. Her family was devastated. The funeral was arranged hastily. Barely 24 hours later, she was buried. But that night, the cemetery guard, an old man named Pablo, reported hearing something unusual. He had worked there for 17 years and never believed in the ghost stories others liked to tell. But this was different. Around 3:13 a.m., as he walked past the Almeida plot, he heard it. 3 knocks, sharp, measured, from underground. He stopped. His flashlight shook. At first, he thought it was an animal. Then came the second set, this time louder, more urgent. Pablo dropped his keys and ran. He called the police, shaking, muttering about a voice in the dirt. No one took it seriously until the next morning. Rosángela's family arrived to visit the grave. As they approached, they noticed something wrong. The bouquet left the day before was torn apart. Petals scattered like confetti. The soil looked disturbed. Her mother collapsed to her knees and began digging with her bare hands. When the authorities arrived and unearthed the coffin, what they found was something out of a nightmare. Rosángela's body had shifted violently. Her arms were bent upward. Her fingernails were bloodied and broken. Deep gouges marked the inside of the lid. Her face was contorted in a silent scream, and her skin was still warm. They rushed her to the hospital. She still had a heartbeat, faint, but there. For 2 hours, doctors fought to revive her fully, but the damage was done. She slipped away. Again, and this time, it was final. But that wasn't the end. The doctors were baffled. How could someone be declared dead, buried for nearly 30 hours, and still show signs of life? An investigation was launched. Her medical records were re-examined, and what they found made everything worse. Rosángela had a rare neurological condition, catalepsy, a disorder that mimics death: no movement, slow breathing, no detectable pulse. But it was rare, so rare that even the attending doctors overlooked it. Her body hadn't shut down. It had gone into a dormant state. They had buried her alive. As news spread, the town exploded with speculation. Videos of her exhumation leaked. People shared theories online, but the real horror was what came next. 2 nights after her second death, Pablo, the same cemetery guard, received a phone call on his old flip phone. No caller ID. Just the time, 3:13 a.m. He answered. At first, nothing, then static, then the faint sound of someone crying, then a voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you help me?" Pablo dropped the phone and quit his job the same day. Meanwhile, Rosángela's family began experiencing strange phenomena. Her sister Camila said the lights in her house flickered every night at exactly 3:13. Her mother swore she heard footsteps pacing outside her bedroom door, slow, dragging footsteps. But the most chilling incident happened exactly 1 week after the burial. Camila's phone rang. Unknown number. 3:13 a.m. she answered. On the line, a woman sobbing quietly, then whispering in the same voice she had grown up hearing. He said, "I wasn't supposed to wake up." Camilla screamed. The call ended. The number couldn't be traced. The phone overheated and shut down on its own. They went to the police. Investigators tried to track the calls, but there were no logs, no outgoing or incoming data. It was as if the calls never happened. But Camilla had recordings, voicemails. Short, crackling audio files that only played once, then vanished. One of them said, "He's with me, in the dark, he won't let me sleep." Another, "It's not over, I see the dirt again." Each one more distorted than the last. And then they stopped, just as suddenly as they began, until the flowers appeared. Each morning, someone was leaving a single red rose on Rosángela's grave. No one saw who. The cameras installed by the cemetery stopped working every night at 3 a.m., only to return at 3:30, glitching back to life like nothing happened. The Almeida family, now terrified, turned to a local priest. He agreed to visit the grave, conduct a blessing, and cleanse the space. But something went wrong. As the priest began to pray, the ground beneath his feet trembled, just slightly, like a breath being taken in. Birds fled from nearby trees. The wind died completely. Then came the sound. A long, slow scrape, like fingernails against wood. It came from under the grave. The priest stopped, he turned pale, stepped back and said, "She's not at rest." He left without finishing the prayer. That same night, the cemetery's caretaker found Pablo sitting near the gates, whispering to himself. When asked what he was doing, Pablo simply muttered, "She calls every night," and he listens. Then, silence. He hasn't spoken since. As fear gripped the town, online forums began picking up the story. The hashtag #BuriedAwake began trending. Paranormal investigators from all over South America arrived, hoping to document evidence. One group placed motion sensors and voice recorders around Rosángela's grave. For 3 nights, nothing happened. Then, on the 4th night, they captured it. At 3:13 a.m., the recorder picked up breathing. Then, a voice. "I remember the sound of dirt falling on my chest, then screaming. Guttural, endless." The recorder shorted out. They played it once, then it deleted itself. The town was no longer curious, it was terrified. Rosángela's grave was sealed in concrete. Her nameplate was removed. The cemetery officially closed off Section D. But it didn't stop. A week later, a bus driver passed out at the wheel while driving past the cemetery at 3:13 a.m. His last words before blacking out were, "She was looking at me." When asked who, he said, "The woman in white." She was holding a phone. But the dashcam, it showed nothing except static from 3:13 to 3:30, exactly 17 minutes of blank, exactly the time Rosángela was buried before the first knock was heard. Camilla, unable to sleep and desperate for answers, went back to the hospital where Rosángela was first pronounced dead. She demanded access to her sister's belongings, especially the clothes she was wearing the day of the crash. The nurse hesitated, then finally handed over a sealed evidence bag. Inside was a torn blouse, stained with blood, and tucked inside the lining, something no one had noticed, Rosángela's phone. But it wasn't the same. It was shattered. The screen was spiderwebbed and dark, but when Camilla touched the power button, the phone turned on, briefly. And in those few seconds, the lock screen flashed a single notification. Missed call, 3:13 a.m., unknown. She stared at the screen, heart racing. Before she could open it, the device died permanently. It would never turn on again. She took it to technicians, data recovery experts, even police digital labs. No one could retrieve anything. One of the forensic analysts handed her the phone and said, "This device was active underground. We don't know how, and frankly, we don't want to." Camila returned home, shaken. That night she had a dream. In it, Rosángela stood at the foot of her bed, wearing the same white gown she was buried in. Her mouth was stitched shut, her eyes wide. In her hand, the same shattered phone. Camilla woke up screaming, but what terrified her wasn't the dream. It was the voicemail left on her phone at 3:13 a.m. that same night. She played it. Rosángela's voice whispered slowly, "I tried to call, you didn't answer. Now he won't let me go." Camilla deleted the message immediately, but the phone rang again. Same time, same number. She didn't answer. Instead, she smashed the phone and buried it, but the calls didn't stop. They just moved to her landline, then to her laptop, then to her dreams. She was no longer being contacted. She was being haunted. And every message ended with the same words: "Don't let them bury me again." 2 weeks later, a local journalist named Mateo Ruiz decided to investigate the story himself. He believed it was nothing more than a mass hysteria event, people looking for meaning in tragedy. He interviewed the family, visited the cemetery, spoke with the doctors. Everything seemed explainable until he received a package. No return address, just a USB drive inside. When he opened the single file on it, he found audio, grainy, warped, but unmistakably real. It began with the sound of dirt being shoveled, then the faint echo of crying, then a voice. "She's still alive down there." Mateo froze. As the audio continued, the voice whispered, "If you dig her up again, he'll come for you too." He played the clip again, only to find the file gone, deleted. Mateo published an article calling the whole thing a hoax. That night, his house caught fire. He survived, but his laptop was destroyed, along with every note, every backup, every interview. The only thing that survived was the USB, but it was blank. No files, no audio, just empty. A week later, he vanished, last seen at 3:12 a.m. outside Rosángela's cemetery. To this day, his car remains abandoned on the road, doors open, keys still in the ignition, but no trace of him has ever been found. The official report says he disappeared under unknown circumstances. Locals say otherwise. They say he answered the call. Today, Rosángela's grave is sealed with reinforced concrete. Security guards patrol it every night, and no one is allowed near after sunset. But sometimes, just sometimes, at exactly 3:13 a.m., nearby residents say their phones ring. Unknown number, and if they answer, they hear only one thing: a woman gasping and dirt falling. Then a whisper: "He buried me again." And then, silence. No one knows who he is. No one knows where the calls come from. No one has dared dig her up again. But one thing is certain: Rosángela never truly left. Not her voice, not her fear, not her story. And if you hear the phone ring at 3:13 a.m., whatever you do, don't answer.